Welcome to the deep dive today. We're diving into the world of AGI, artificial general intelligence. You've sent us some pretty fascinating stuff. We've got academic excerpts, AI news videos, even a bit of science fiction.
It's quite the mix.
It seems like you're interested in AGI. But not just the technical details, right?
Yeah.
You want to grapple with the bigger questions. Like, what does it mean for intelligence? For the future of humanity? For society as a whole?
Those are the questions that really matter in the long run.
And that's what we're here to unpack. We'll break down these complex ideas, highlight the most important points from your sources, and hopefully spark some new thoughts along the way.
Sounds good.
So to kick things off, you included an excerpt from The Bell Curve, a book that really leans on IQ as a measure of intelligence.
Yes.
It's a controversial book, to say the least, and it sparked a lot of debate. Isabella, what are your thoughts on using IQ to define intelligence, especially in the age of AI?
Well, the bell curve really ignited a firestorm about whether IQ tests truly capture the complexity of human intelligence, and whether it's even fair to compare people from different backgrounds using that single metric. Now with the development of AGI, those questions become even more important.
Yeah, it seems like judging AGI based solely on something like IQ is a little limited, wouldn't you say?
Precisely, AGI aims to replicate the general intelligence we see in humans. Things like learning, adapting, even being creative. Those are much harder things to measure than just, say, problem-solving speed.
Speaking of which, did you see those robots, Emeka and Neo, in one of the YouTube videos you sent? They can draw, and Neo can even code based on instructions.
Right, those examples show that AGI isn't just about processing information quickly or solving logical puzzles.
It's about replicating the kind of general intelligence we see in humans. Okay, so moving on to another fascinating aspect of your research, what are the ethical implications of creating something that might be as intelligent as humans or even more intelligent? You included Greg Iles' novel, The Footprints of God. It's about scientists creating a super-intelligent AI, almost like a new deity.
A bold idea, for sure.
Is that concept pure science fiction, Isabella, or is there something deeper to it?
Well, Iles' novel definitely taps into a very real fear, for sure. The fear that we might create something we can't control, something that redefines our place in the universe.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the YouTubers you sent even asked viewers if they think AI should have rights if it becomes conscious.
That's a question a lot of people are asking, and to be honest, there are no easy answers.
There really aren't.
One of the academic papers you shared argues that if AGI becomes self-aware, we might need to reconsider our whole definition of personhood.
Oh.
It gets to the heart of the ethical dilemma, doesn't it?
It really does.
Do we owe AI moral consideration? Can we exploit it for our own benefit?
So instead of asking, what is intelligence?
Yes, go on.
We might end up asking, what does it mean to be a person?
And that raises a whole new set of ethical dilemmas that society will have to grapple with as AGI continues to develop.
Absolutely. Now shifting gears a bit, let's talk about what all this means for us, for everyday people. How might AGI impact our lives in a more practical sense?
Well, both the bell curve and that AGI analysis you mentioned highlight a potential issue. The widening gap between the haves and the have-nots.
You mean in terms of access to knowledge and resources?
Exactly. The bell curve argues that this is already happening based on traditional measures of intelligence, but AGI could amplify that trend on a massive scale.
Like in that video clip where a robot barista is making fancy latte art while people are losing their jobs in the service industry.
Ethan, that's a bit of an extreme example, perhaps, but it illustrates the point.
How worried should we be about this, Isabella?
It really depends on how we develop and distribute these technologies. The AGI analysis makes a crucial point. We could use AGI to democratize knowledge and opportunities, uplifting everyone. But if we're not careful, it could easily become a tool of control and oppression.
So it's a double-edged sword. Exactly. And this actually connects to a really unsettling idea that comes up in several of your sources, the potential for AGI to become a new kind of eugenic tool. Gauge.
Ethan, it's a chilling thought.
It really is.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us, Isabella? What's the connection to the bell curve?
Well, historically, eugenics used flawed metrics. often tied to intelligence to justify horrific acts. Things like forced sterilization, discrimination, even genocide. The fear is that AGI could be used in a similar way, creating new standards of fitness that disadvantage certain groups of people or even entire populations.
So this isn't just some abstract, philosophical debate. This has very real and potentially dangerous consequences.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so important to have these conversations now, before these technologies become so advanced that we lose control over how they're used.
Isabella, it's a lot to think about. We've gone from IQ tests, to robots making coffee, to the possibility of AGI reshaping society, and even challenging our understanding of what it means to be human.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But before we get too overwhelmed, let's take a short break and come back to discuss some of the more specific ways that AGI is already starting to impact our lives.
Sounds good.
Isabella, you've also included some really interesting stuff about how AGI is already impacting our lives, even in seemingly small ways.
Right, it's not just a far-off concept anymore.
Exactly. For example, one of the YouTube videos you sent focuses on how developers are trying to make AI more human-like, especially when it comes to communication.
Yeah, that's one of the most exciting areas of development right now.
It really is.
It's not just about what AGI can do anymore. It's about how well AGI does it.
Right.
The video shown these incredibly lifelike robots, Amika and Mio, that can hold conversations that sound, well, surprisingly natural.
I was really impressed by that too. They don't sound like robots with the typical robotic voices we're used to hearing from AI assistants.
No, not at all. They're powered by something called large language models, or LLMs. And these AGI LLMs models have been trained on just massive amounts of text data, which allows them to understand and generate human language in a much more nuanced and sophisticated way.
So, for example, they've absorbed the entire internet, basically.
In a sense, yes.
And now, AGI can use that knowledge to communicate with us.
Exactly.
So, are these LLMs what allow those robotics to, for example, express opinions and beliefs, like in the video? I mean, Amika even talked about robots having rights, which reminded me of the footprints of God.
It's true, there are definitely parallels there.
It's pretty wild.
It really is, and its AGI ability to, not just process information, but to actually form opinions and make judgments, that what makes AGI so fascinating and potentially unsettling.
Right. It really blurs the line between machine and I don't really know, something more. On a more practical level, I'm curious about how these robots are actually able to, move and interact with the world so realistically.
Well, robotics has come a long way, and one of the videos you sent really showcases that.
Which one?
The one with the AI robot making latte art, and in another video a robot is playing basketball.
Yeah.
And then there's that robot dog video, Laika, that's designed to accompany astronauts on those long space missions journey.
I do remember that one, Isabella. It's amazing to think that technology was once only confined to science fiction is now becoming a reality.
You are correct, Ethan, it's incredible.
But all this progress does make you wonder about the potential downsides. Like, one of the videos really emphasized the impact AI and automation could have on the job market.
It's a valid concern.
It is.
Ethan, while these technologies can certainly create new opportunities, they also have the potential to displace workers in many industries.
The video even showed a robot replacing a barista. In some sense kind of hit a little close to home for me. I can't imagine a world without my morning coffee made by a human.
It's understandable to feel a little anxious about these changes, but one of the PDFs you included offered a more optimistic perspective written by Sarai Hannah J. It argued that instead of trying to compete with machines, we should focus on developing skills that complement AGI and robotics.
So, Isabella, you are saying working with the technology rather than against it. Right?
Exactly.
Isabella, what you just mentioned makes a lot of sense to me.
We need to think about how humans and machines can collaborate effectively, which will have the potential to leveraging the unique strengths of each, the robotics and humans.
Yeah.
This will means businesses investing in their employees' education and retraining programs, so their employees can adapt to that evolving job markets utilizing AGI technologies.
Isabella, it seems like, instead of fearing the AGI and robotics, we should be thinking about how to work alongside them. It's definitely a shift in thinking.
It is, Ethan.
But it seems like a necessary one, Isabella.
It does.
And it's not just about jobs taken away, right? I mean, the impact of AGI extends far beyond the workplace, as well. The author, Sarah Hannah A.G.I. PDFs even suggested that it could lead to new forms of employment discriminations and inequality.
You are correct, Ethan. It's not enough to simply develop these technologies. We need to think carefully about how they're implemented and ensure that they're used ethically and responsibly, applying compliances to government regulatory oversights.
It's a lot to consider. So, how do we implement practical governmental compliant oversights? How do we make sure that AGI is used for good and not for harming societal employment's populations?
Well, it starts with having these public conversations, and raising awareness about the potential risks and benefits of AGI, and advocating for government policies that promote fairness and transparency of these technologies.
I think that's what we're trying to do with this show, actually.
It is, and one of the most promising developments in this area of these technologies has been the rise of open-source AI model.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that.
The release of models like Falcon and Llama is really making these powerful tools accessible to a much wider range of people.
It seems like a really positive step towards democratizing AI.
It is. It allows researchers and developers from all over the world to contribute to the advancement of AGI, rather than concentrating power in the hands of a few large corporations.
But doesn't open-source AGI also increase the risk of misuse? I mean, if anyone can access these tools, couldn't they be used for their malicious purposes?
It's a valid concern, but open source doesn't mean unregulated in a sense of the words.
Right.
We still need to establish ethical guidelines, safety protocols and mechanisms for accountability, and having more eyes on these technologies can actually help to identify and mitigate potential risks more quickly.
So it's about finding that balance between openness and responsibility.
Exactly.
It's a tricky one.
It is. These AGI balances are a complex challenge, but one that we need to address head-on if we want to harness the full potential of AI while minimizing the risks.
Okay, so you included some articles that are really interesting material about how AGI is kind of blurring the lines between the physical and digital worlds. I'm thinking specifically about those brain-computer interfaces. Elon Musk's Neuralink. One of the videos showed someone playing chess online just by thinking about the moves.
It is mind-blowing.
It really is.
These devices can directly connect our brains to computers, allowing us to control digital devices with our thoughts.
It's like something straight out of science fiction.
It really is.
It's incredible and, I don't know, a little terrifying at the same time. What are the implications for privacy and autonomy, Isabella? If our thoughts can be accessed by technology? It's crazy.
Those are some of the big questions that our nation's researchers and ethicists are grappling with right now. As this technology evolves, we need to establish clear ethical guidelines and governmental regulatory frameworks to ensure that it's used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity.
It seems like we're entering some type of uncharted territory with these advancements. This whole deep dive has been quite a journey, and we've covered so much ground. But there's one more aspect of your research that I'd love to explore before we wrap up, Isabella. You included some information about a company called Sanctuary AI, which is taking a very unique approach to AGI development.
Oh yes, Sanctuary AI.
Tell me more about that.
Well, their mission is to create robots with human-like intelligence that can operate in the real world.
So not just in a lab or a controlled environment.
Yes, Ethan, in the real world. They're partnering with Microsoft and using the Azure cloud to develop something called large behavior models.
How interesting.
Essentially, these are AI systems that can learn and adapt based on real-world experiences.
So instead of being programmed with specific roles, these robots are learning by doing. Just like humans do.
They're physically interacting with the world and learning from those interactions.
Nice.
Sanctuary AI even claims that they've been able to reduce the time it takes to automate new tasks from weeks to less than 24 hours.
Wow, that's incredible. It seems like they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with robotics.
Yes, they are.
Again, Isabella, with this level of sophistication comes a whole new set of ethical considerations. How do we ensure that these robots are used safely and responsibly?
Ethan, that's the million-dollar question.
It really is.
As these robots become more capable and autonomous, we need to think about issues like safety, transparency, accountability. How do we make sure that these robots are aligned with human values? How do we prevent unintended consequences? How do we make sure that these robots are aligned with human values?
These are tough questions, and I don't think anyone has all the answers yet.
No, we're all still learning.
But it's clear that we need to be having these conversations now, before these technologies become so advanced that we lose control over how they're used.
I completely agree, Ethan. This deep dive has been a fantastic exploration of this complex and multifaceted world of AGI. We've covered so much ground, from the philosophical implications to the practical applications, the potential benefits to the potential risks. But I think the most important takeaway is that the future of AGI is not predetermined. It's something that we're actively shaping through the choices we make today.
Isabella, that's a powerful message. And speaking of shaping the future, one of the videos you sent featured a robot that literally navigated one of the most challenging terrains in the world, the Great Wall of China.
Oh, yes, that was an impressive feat.
It was.
Roboterra's X-Bot L successfully walked the Great Wall, showcasing its advanced perceptive reinforcement learning algorithms.
It's truly amazing to see these robots operating in real-world environments.
It is.
Adapting to obstacles and challenges on the fly. It's almost like watching evolution in action.
It is, it's really remarkable.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for these technologies. Where will we be in 5 years, 10 years?
It's hard to even imagine.
The possibilities seem endless.
They do.
It's both exciting and a little daunting to think about.
I agree.
But I think that's the beauty of this whole advancement in AGI technology. It's constantly evolving, challenging us to think differently and to imagine new possibilities.
It certainly keeps things interesting.
It does.
And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. It's not just about summarizing the information you've gathered. It's about sparking your curiosity, encouraging you to ask questions, and inspiring you to continue exploring this fascinating and rapidly changing landscape.
This one of numerous examples of how rapidly this technology is advancing.
Yeah, it really is remarkable.
It makes you think, what's next? It's both exciting and a little overwhelming.
It is a lot to take in.
It is. One of the things that's really stuck with me throughout this whole conversation is this idea that the future of AGI isn't some predetermined path.
It's very much a choose-your-own-adventure story.
It is. It really depends on the choices we make, both as individuals and as a society.
I think that's a really crucial point.
It is.
Technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's really up to us to decide how we want to shape the future of AGI.
So, as we kind of navigate this uncharted territory, what are some of the things we should be thinking about?
Well, I think staying informed is key. The more we understand about AGI, about its potential impact, the better equipped we'll be to make those informed decisions. That's why deep dives like these are so valuable.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding the technology itself, right, Isabella? It's also about those ethical, social, and economic implications.
Exactly. We need to be having these conversations about things like bias in AGI, the potential for job displacement, the need for regulations to ensure that AGI is developed and used responsibly.
For sure.
These are complex issues and there are no easy answers.
It could feel, a little overwhelming at times. But it's important to remember that we have AGI agency in all of this. We're not just passive bystanders. We can actively shape the future of AGI through the choices we make, the products we buy, the companies we support, the policies we advocate for.
I completely agree, Ethan. We don't be afraid to ask questions, challenge assumptions, engage in these conversations. Because the future of AGI isn't something that's happening to us. It's something we're creating together.
That's a great message and a great note to end on. Isabella, thank you so much for joining us today and guiding us through this complex and fascinating landscape. I feel like I've learned so much from our conversation.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, challenged your assumptions, and given you a better understanding of the incredible possibilities and potential challenges of AGI. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay engaged. That's it, folks, for this episode discussion of the AGI intelligence, ethics, and the new eugenics deep dive. We hope you enjoyed our exploration of AGI pros and cons, and be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the sources we discussed today. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. I.